total, every minority in the country. If we don't get to the root here among all of you and start looking at the statistics of where you're serving the community and proportionally spend the same amount of money to that DMA, we can sit down here forever and keep doing little tests. And I don't think that's fair. Because we're working 3 times more than everybody else. You guys are working 4 or 5 times more. So we have to go back to legislators, we have to go back to our CEOs, and we have to say, these are the communities of growth. And this is, I was just 2 days ago at CTAC, there's an event, a beautiful event that I wish every one of you would have been, how the demographics and the statistics that they have on the websites, and I have here the website for you guys to go in, that shows each of the different places where we are and how proportionally we are. And what they were doing is for grant writing, which is technically speaking our advertising community. So if you look into those DMAs and if you start going into the statistics, guess what? We're a super large community. And so I would say that we have to work a little bit harder at the core of the issue, which is legislation, which says our federal government proportionally should spend the amount of DMA, and therefore the corporations will have to do the same thing. So we can pull up. And I would say that's the biggest elephant in the room that we have to start all addressing.
We talked also, we did some prep work, you were also talking about getting people in positions of power. Chris had mentioned this as well. The behind the scenes people, and you talked about women in particular, not necessarily just women of color. Martha, did you want to talk about that?
Well, that's the other elephant in the room. The fastest growing segment of media in the room is women, and women up to a certain level. And the decision makers come on the other side. I love men, and I'm married to one. And I have a great brother too, who is co-owner of the newspaper. But at the end of the day, the decision making of the purchasing power relies on women. And the women are the media coming up with the ideas and getting blocked on the ideas. So the CEO that we're addressing, the 2 CEOs we're addressing right now, NMPA and NHPA, is sending women to talk to us, yet the final decision making is on the CEO. Something is dysfunctionally there. So we have to also, as a group, start moving women more up the ladder of decision making so we can get those budgets downstream to us. Those are 2 issues that we have across the country. Here, locally, obviously. You guys see me every month in Olympia, by the way.
Teresa?
Well, that's some awesome information, and there's so much truth, and yeah, it is time to shift things. Now, I happen to be very fortunate to work for Univision Seattle, which is a Univision affiliate. Univision is a network that's been around for about 50 years. So I'm probably in a slightly different position than most of my wonderful folks up here, because we are part of the Como family. For those of you who don't know, it is Sinclair Broadcast Group that owns us now. It used to be Fisher, but we're now Sinclair. So, you know, we have a lot of advantages. We have a lot of advantages because we have a big powerhouse behind us. We have a huge brand behind us. You know, but that doesn't mean that I'm not cognizant of the fact that I have all these folks up here, that my friends that I work with, that when I have a client that wants to reach a specific audience and maybe very specific area, you know, and I know that they have limited budgets, I'm not going to try to get them to advertise on Univision. That would be ridiculous. I'm not serving that client. So maybe I will send them to one of the radio stations, or I will send them to El Mundo, and I'll say, you know, let's get you there. Let's start building up your business. And when the time comes and you need Televisión, I'm here, and I'll help you out. But yes, there's so many things that need to change. And I just looked over you and I thought of something, Roberta, what we were talking about earlier. You know, for me, as a Latina, as a woman who grew up in the United States, I was born in Mexico, but I was a baby, 5 months old, when my parents brought me to the United States. All my life, I've worked 30 plus years, 35 years in television. I've been very, very, very fortunate. I got into TV because of community protests in Tucson that wanted to see women and minorities on TV. And I was very fortunate to be the first trainee that the University of Arizona's KUAT public television station hired. And I've made a commitment ever since to be part of, whether it's Spanish language or bilingual, whatever. And I keep telling our friends, and I'm so proud of the fact that we had a Latina on the air here, but do you see any in general market right now in our community?
No.
No. And you know, it's like we need to get out there too. I was talking with a young gal recently who is now working in Eastern Washington. A lot of you may know her, Veronica Quintero. She was Miss Seafair and Miss Hispanic Seafair a couple years back. And we highly suggested to her, you know, go, you know, cut your teeth, go to a smaller market. And she really wanted to work at Univision, but there were no possibilities at the time here in Seattle. But I've really suggested to her to go into general market, because we need to be seen in general market, you know? I mean, Como, yeah, they can say that they have Latinos working there, but guess what? You're not seeing them on Como. You're seeing them on Univision. So I think it's just really important. There's so many things that need to be done, and we just got to keep pushing for it. Keep pushing for it. And I really respect what you've done in this community.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, so I was the only Latina reporter on air at King 5 for 22 years, but I actually transitioned out, and there's no one else on King 5, our #1 station, and they haven't even thought about, as far as I know, hiring another one, so we'll see. Anyway, how does ethnic media measure results? We always talk about numbers. How do communicators track return of investment? Travis. Oh, surprised him again.
I mean, I guess that'd kind of be a question for our development ad salesperson, Lexi, but like, it's, I guess we have our readership, we have our statistics on who our print readership is. We have a print edition that comes out on the first and third Wednesday of the month. We have a website that's updated every day, and you know, we can track how many people visit our website and click on things like that. But I guess that's the answer.
Yeah. Anybody else want to answer this one? Joaquin?
As I work in the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs at the City of Seattle, and one of our big things is immigrant integration, not assimilation, integration. And our whole thing is to get folks from, you know, undocumented immigrant to new American, voting regularly and often, and volunteering for their community, right? And so one of our big things is for legal permanent residents, aka green card holders, how can we get them on a path to citizenship? And so we work with a nonprofit. I mean, I can tell you offline more about this, but this nonprofit in particular, and they're probably here, they organize these citizenship clinics where you have BIA accredited counselors and lawyers, immigration lawyers there, interpreters, and folks who are helping people on that path. And you know, lots of people's immigration statuses are generally more complicated than just filling out the form and submitting it, so it's important to have lawyers here. I guess last year, they really did their campaign with, you know, in language, they're great, they integrated everything from the get, but they only really had the capacity to do flyers at community-based organizations and at religious institutions and word of mouth. And they were okay, you know, they had goals of like 70 and they didn't quite hit their goals, maybe they were like 60 or 50. So this year, our office assisted them with ethnic media, not so much buying ads, but like thinking about social media, thinking about, you know, maybe doing a story about this, and maybe like a small ad buy. And the 2 immigration clinics that they had, they surpassed their goals by like 10 or 20. And they're moving forward with integrating ethnic media more fully in the next citizenship clinics that they're doing. And so that to us is a big indicator that, yeah, absolutely, it works. And again, though, you have to integrate this from the beginning and have a coordinated campaign of ethnic media going to the mosque and talking to the imam, going to these restaurants where folks go to and putting the flyers up, talking to grass tops or whatever, community leaders who are very influential and who, you know, are helping run the rumor mills in different communities to talk about these events, so that you can see tangible successes in numbers. And of course, when you're at the events, ask people, have that question, how did you find out about the events? And that's a big indicator right there. Record that down, have that available so that when you're, you know, convincing the people with the purse strings about money for budgets, you can be like, bam, This is how many people found out about it through radio, through El Mundo, through television, etc.
Thank you. Yes, Martha?
That's a tough question because, as you heard me before, the budgets are so limited. We are understaffed, under budgeted, and all that. So it is tough because the mainstream measures in certain ways. We measure in a completely different way. Why? Because we have no choice. So I'll give you a couple examples. You might place an ad and expect the phone to ring left and right, but we tell them is hang in there. You have to have a long-term vision because to begin with, you were not in the community. So it takes you a while to ramp up so people can trust you. So please don't come up with one page and expect everything to happen, or one ad and everything to happen. It's better to even spread that money across for a long time so the trust is built up, and then let's start measuring thereafter and not at the beginning. The second thing is definitely, and Chris touched on it, the storytelling. I want to make sure that I mention that whatever you see in Hollywood is not what really the reality of the communities are. I remember I used to say I'm Colombian, and you know what everybody will think, right? Well, that's Hollywood, and that is Hollywood for all of us. So everything that you see in Hollywood is the opposite. We're better than that. And so storytelling, it's another way to measure it, because storytelling, linking it now to, thank goodness, the Facebooks and the internet, started